So today I have CEO of TiVo, Tom Rogers here. Thanks a lot, Tom, for being interviewed by me. So Tom, I want to ask you a few business questions. In your session today, you mentioned about the TiVo's relationship with the advertising industry and networks. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Well, TiVo is very much about not only giving consumers the best way to watch television, but giving the industry tools as that consumer experience changes, so the business model isn't left behind. So advertisers and networks alike have the ability to create their own ways of driving revenue as people no longer watch television the way they traditionally did. We have developed a couple of key ways of doing that. We've developed advertising solutions, ways for advertisers to present their advertising to viewers that doesn't have to involve the shows being interrupted, because with the technology that we developed, it became so easy for people to fast forward through the commercials. Does that mean that television advertising doesn't have a role on television going forward? Of course not. Television certainly has a role, but you need to find different forms of inventory that involve different technologies as a way to present that so that the advertising is compelling. That's one. We've also created an enormous source of data that allows the television industry to measure what gets through, what doesn't get through as people are avoiding commercials, and measure all kinds of other things, which gives a granularity to the measurement, and with that, some real accountability that exists on the internet for advertisers, because every click is measured there, but the television world has really lacked. And we think one of the key things that the television industry needs to do, if it's going to maintain its competitiveness as an advertising outlet, is to have data that is commensurate with what's available to advertisers on the internet. So the creation of solutions, the creation of more granular data, and how all of those work together with a consumer experience for how we believe people will be watching television going forward.
Right. On stage, you use an example of the sweater wear by Jennifer Aniston, for example, in a TV show, and turning that into an actionable purchase item. User can pause and go maybe decide to buy things without missing a second of the show. Are there any other examples that TiVo is thinking of using, or that's one of the major way of making money for the stations and the shows and stuff?
Well, what we think so important about that is that there's so many opportunities to use television as a vehicle through which people can transact without having it to fall into the category of product placement, where you're cluttering a show with brand names, and in so doing you run up against what the creative community will think is a limit of what you can responsibly do in the production of a television program. But by allowing somebody to easily find out anything they see on a screen, commercial information about it, and access it and act on it while pausing the show itself so that you're not missing a minute of your television program, allows for more commercial opportunity, is not disruptive to the viewer watching the show, does not violate principles that the production community may have in terms of just how much commercialization they'll allow within a show. And so we think it's a way of balancing all that. Now, with that approach, there are many ways that you can adopt search for television that's very television-centric, other ways of creating opportunities for people who are not traditional television advertisers at all, but you have a golf match and somebody's swinging a golf club, and all of a sudden you could use that as a way to search right on your television set for that golf club or other golf clubs. Well, the golf club advertiser may not be a television advertiser, even though he may be an internet or a newspaper advertiser, and it provides a mechanism for being able to allow television to benefit from the existence of that viewing experience and making it a commercial opportunity at the same time.
Am I understanding it right, that it's in a sense putting a lot of metadata on the image as the viewers watch the program, and if there's a way to monetize it, then that's how you guys
we put a lot of metadata into our television content, movie content, all the content. You can put equivalent amounts of data into the commercialization itself, and in so doing create a lot of transactional opportunity.
Right. In terms of as a company, do you see your company as a hardware company selling boxes, or in the long term it's more like research and data that you guys are providing? It's more of a software?
Well, I'd say all of the above. What we really are is providing a experience, and we'll provide that experience through software built into somebody else's box. We'll provide it straight into a television set, as we're doing with Best Buy and in an announcement we recently made. We'll provide it in our own box. We'll allow that box that we sell at retail to be provisioned by a cable operator and turn it into a cable box. So we'll take any opportunity to take our software and the user experience that flows from it and package it through the most convenient, flexible way to get it in front of the viewer. So we don't define ourselves as a hardware company, but as hardware one way that we make that experience available, absolutely.
Yeah, going back to tagging the products and working with the companies, the sellers of sweaters or shoes and whatever. How far along are you guys working with them, or is it still in a very prototype stage, research stage?
Well, some elements of advertising inventory we have, as I mentioned on stage, are already doing things like that. Some elements of it are still very much in development, but it's an active part of our R&D activity.
Right. So final question about Canada. When do you guys plan to come to Canada in a massive scale? And also, would you actually, I guess it's a two-part question. Are the data from the U.S. very transferable to, in terms of customer viewing experience and whatnot, very transferable to Canada? And I guess it's the same experience transferable to European countries or the Asian countries? Or do you need to recollect all the data once again?
Well, in terms of Canada, as I said, we've been in retail in Canada. Our whole view of how to broadly distribute TiVo is a function of getting it distributed by mass distributors, operators, and we're in discussions, and part of those discussions relate to technological differences between the United States and other markets. In the United States, our Federal Communications Commission mandates the use of cable cards, so that any cable operator has to have a card that it can stick into a third-party box to make sure that our box can serve as the cable box. Other markets don't have that regulatory approach, which involves our pursuing alternative means of how we...
In Canada,
in Canada, the CRTC does not require that. So there are differences, but as I said, our strength is that we can go into any market and assess how to develop this on a market-by-market basis, taking into account those differences in technologies. But that is one of the key areas for us to be able to determine how quickly we'd be available in the market.
Right. Okay, well, thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you.